Alrighty, welcome back everyone. Scarlane here bringing you a new Neverwinter video, and today we're going to be looking at the Soulweaver Warlock changes that will be coming in Mod 19. So I am kind of under the weather, that's why the past few days haven't had any video releases, so kind of bear with me as I sniffle through this video. Now currently we are on the Xbox. I wanted to give some reference so when we look at this down the road, as far as timeline goes, today is June 16th of 2020. So if you're watching this in the future, then this probably, doesn't really have any relevance. Mod 19 is set to release on June 30th for PC. Currently no release date for console, but I imagine sometime in July. So when we're specifically talking about the Soulweaver of the Warlock, now keep in mind I don't actively play a Soulweaver, so I might miss a few of the changes, but I wanted to give this video some relevance just so we can look at the old way it was before we hop over to preview and check out all the new stuff. So Soulweaver currently, we are still using Soul Sparks, right? So when you're casting your abilities, when you spam Horror Storm, you still have a Soul Spark mechanic, right? You can sit here and spam all this. You can see your Soul Sparks deleting. This does change in Mod 19 once we look at the changes. So if we go ahead and look at, just the layout and everything, just so you guys have relevance of what we're looking at here, we have Soul Sparks currently. This is actually changing. So let's go ahead, let's hop on the preview server and take a look at all the changes. Alright guys, and here we are on preview server currently. Now you can already see that Soul Sparks are gone. So they wanted to make Paladins, Warlocks, and Clerics all viable sources for healing. So Soulweaver pretty much got a complete overhaul, and a lot of things are different. So we're going to break this down into two categories here. We're going to look at the at-wills and the dailies and the encounters first, and then we'll go over class features and the feats. But right away, you can clearly see Soul Sparks are now gone for Soulweaver. Soul Sparks are only on Hellbringer now. You now have a divinity meter, which you can kind of see the divinity meter. Let's go ahead and take a look at this stuff. Now keep in mind, like I said before, I actively don't play a Soulweaver. So if I get something incorrect or if I miss something, don't crucify me, guys. I don't really play Soulweaver. You guys know I play DPS. So right off the bat, Eldritch Blast is pretty much the same. Dark Helix was changed. We went over Dark Helix on the actual Hellbringer. We have Soul Reconstruction, which hasn't really changed that much, other than the magnitude. So on the live servers currently, the magnitude was only 200 healing. Now it is 500. This is a substantial single target heal, especially if you're trying to keep the tank alive. Now finally, we have something new. Essence Defiler is now removed out of the game. So Essence Defiler is no more, and we have Infernal Barrier now. So it costs 20 Soul Weave. It raises an Infernal Barrier on a target ally or yourself that absorbs damage equivalent to a heal of 450 magnitude, and it lasts 20 seconds. So this is just basically providing temp HP or a shield to either yourself or a target. So not too bad. I'd like to experiment with this on a character that I actually have unlocked on. And we'll have to look at this and see if it's a valid option. What it comes down to essentially is the content you're doing. Are you going to want damage? Or are you going to want a single target heal and a barrier? Because you can only have two at-wills, right guys? So Eldritch Blast is really the only at-will damage you have. Dark Helix does do damage, but it's the cooldowns and you got to generate the spirals and everything. So you got a big, beastly single target heal, and you also get Infernal Barrier. Now, there are some feats down here that we'll go over that will compare whether or not dealing damage is actually better than having just solid heals. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and move down to the encounters. Some minor changes to the encounters here. Arms of Hadar, nothing major. Vampic Embrace, nothing. We know the changes with Blades of the Vanquished. If you don't know the changes for this, then hop over to the Hellbringer video. I go in depth about the changes to Blades. I'm not going to do it again. Hadar's Grasp, no real changes here. Dread Theft, again, no changes. Let's get into the things that actually do have changes, shall we? So we have Revitalize now. This used to be Shatter Spark, right? Now Shatter Spark used to heal with a magnitude of 400. It has been significantly buffed. It heals all the allies at a target location. The magnitude decreases as the number of targets increases. So if you're only healing yourself or one other target, it has a healing magnitude of 1500, which is a big daddy heal. So yeah, now this also costs a lot. You know, it's 200 soul weave. So keep that in mind. You can't just sit there and spam it. But if, as far as a group heal, if you're targeting all 5 members, it is going to go down from the 1500. It also has a completely new graphic and animation as well, which I do believe is this button here. So yes, Shatter Spark was not targetable before. It used to just click the button and it used to AoE heal. So now Revitalize, you can actually target on the ground, and it has a whole brand new animation with it. So good work with that. I like that. Not too bad. And again, you can see my soul weave decreasing as I spam it. So overall, not too bad. Looks like a pretty good hill. Now, Pillar of Power hasn't changed. There is a minor change with Wrath Shadow, which is interesting. It deals necrotic damage, which it always did. It's a DOT. But it has an added effect now. It decreases the target's damage dealt by 5%. Now, we used to have a class feature that did this. I don't know if the class feature is still there or not. If we go and look at the live servers, I believe it was called Warding Curse, right? I think they actually removed Warding Curse, right? Yeah, Warding Curse doesn't exist anymore once we go over the class features. So what they did is they took Warding Curse away from the class features and added that effect to Wrath Shadow. Now, I don't know how viable that's going to be. This has no healing, right? This is a damaging spell. It provides no healing. So on the live servers currently, I believe Wrath Shadow actually does have minor healing to it. Well, they took the healing away from it. They increased the magnitude. It used to be 200 magnitude. Now it's 380 magnitude. It solely only does damage, so there's no healing effect. And it reduces the damage dealt by a target by 5%. So I don't know how valuable this is going to be in endgame play, where the Soulweaver is mainly going to be focused around heals anyway. I don't think you're going to be using this. I really don't. Maybe if it was a bigger debuff, maybe if it was between 10 to 15% or something, then I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that. Next we have Soulstorm. Okay, now this was Horrorstorm. So Horrorstorm doesn't exist anymore, and now it's called Soulstorm. Now on the live servers, Horrorstorm used to do damage and healing. It now no longer does damage. Now it is strictly an AoE healing ability. Summon a circle at the target location, healing party members within overtime. It has a healing magnitude of 500 now. On the live servers currently, Horrorstorm is only a 200 magnitude heal, but Horrorstorm used to do damage. So now, it does not do any damage, and it's strictly a healing ability. And I don't think they changed it either, right? They kind of changed, like, the graphic of the initial cast, but Horrorstorm itself, or whatever it's called now, is still the green pool on the ground here, so nothing too fancy other than it did get an overall buff, right? Like, you can see some potential here in the buffing. Now, finally, we have Warlock's Bargain. I don't think anything got changed with this. I could be wrong. Let me read it here. Absorb your life spark and immediately restore some soul weave. So it did. It changed. It changed in a big way, actually. Warlock's Bargain used to be a healing spell. You would cast Warlock's Bargain on the live servers, and it would have a healing magnitude of 200. It no longer heals at all. Now, it absorbs your life spark and immediately restores some soul weave, which is interesting. And it still has the added effect of outgoing healing by 10%. So a normal loadout, let's say on the live servers, for instance, I would always be using Pillar of Power and Warlock's Bargain and just spamming Shadow Spark. Now, you have to make some decisions. Pillar of Power not only groups, it gives a buff to your group, but it also increases your outgoing healing, right? Unless they changed it. Did they actually change it? No, they didn't change it. It gives 5%, right? Increases outgoing healing by 5%, right? Oh, actually, they took the DPS buff off of this? Oh, no, it still has it. It gives a 5% DPS buff. It gives a 5% outgoing healing buff, and it reduces the damage taken by people in it by 5%. So if you're playing a Soulweaver on the live servers right now, chances are you're using Pillar of Power, you were using Warlock's Bargain. You were just simply dropping your Pillar of Power, casting your Warlock's Bargain, and that's an instant 15% outgoing healing. Although I think it was 20% on live, isn't it? I'm looking on the live servers right now. Yeah, they actually nerfed this a little bit. This used to be 10%. So on the live servers, I was getting 20% outgoing healing just from 2 abilities right here. And then you would simply just spam Shadow Spark and use Soul Reconstruction as your healing. Now, we have some decisions to make on Soulweaver, right? Depending on the party, depending on the content and what you're doing, are you going to factor in some Soulstorm now? Are you going to use Warlock's Bargain for not only the outgoing healing, but the new effect on it? So there's some interesting combinations that we're going to have to come up with, and once we test everything to see what kind of potential, as far as healing goes, the Warlock's going to be bringing to the table overall now. Now, very quickly, we'll just look at the dailies here, and then we'll move on to the second part of the video. So, Soul Siphon here. This used to be a Cursed Souls. It deals necrotic damage to nearby enemies. The combo is 450. And they haven't changed it. They just kind of changed the name of it. The added effect is heal yourself and nearby party members. So, not only are you doing 900 magnitude damage, but you're also healing for 800 as well. So that's not too bad, actually. Brood of Hadar hasn't gotten any changes or anything. They put flames on here now, which is kind of weird. Flames is now on Soulweaver. I'm not sure why, but Flames is on Soulweaver now. We have Soul Barrier. Order your Life Spark to summon a barrier around it, decreasing the damage taken by allies within 10%. It has a heal over time. Raise an Infernal Barrier that absorbs damage equal to the amount. This is essentially one big pally shield. Now, we haven't talked about the Life Spark yet. We'll get into that next with the mechanics and the class features and the feats. There's a whole new row of mechanics now, and one of those mechanics is the Life Spark. So, Soul Barrier, believe it or not, they took Immolation Spirits out. Immolation Spirits is now gone. So, if you used to like Immolation Spirits like I did, well, I'm sorry, they're gone now. Immolation Spirits now has been changed to Soul Barrier. And essentially, it's one big heal as well as one big barrier. So, very interesting. Needs a lot of testing, and we'll have to see what happens with this. Now, finally, we have Soul Pack. I don't know if anything got changed with this. The heal magnitude is the same. The damage resistance looks the same. I don't think they changed anything with Soul Pack. So, very interesting mechanics here. You can choose to go somewhat damage on Soulweaver with some abilities, which will actually help the Soulweaver. Or you could go pure 100% healing and defense with barriers and everything. So, interesting mechanics up until this point. So next we're going to go over the mechanics, the class features, and the feats. Alright guys, and let's go ahead and take a look at those mechanics. So like I said, we don't have Soul Sparks anymore. Now we have a new mechanic here. So your Life Spark has 2 different abilities. You can tap it briefly to activate Life Mark, or you can hold down to channel Life Pack. So now this can be targeted on yourself as well as someone else. So if we don't target anyone here, it should cast it on ourselves. There it is, finally. So you could see it on our head here. This is your life mark. And then again, you can channel it, and it will heal whoever has that life mark on top of them. And you could toggle it between party members, etc. Now we have something called Soul Manipulation. You now generate Soul Weave rather than Soul Spark. Soul Weave is a resource required to cast certain spells. Soul Weave regenerates over time. Regeneration rate is increased when out of combat. Increases the effectiveness of healing spells and reduces the threat generated by healing spells. Now we have Life Spark. You conjure a spark of soul energy to fight by your side. It casts in spirit automatically on wounded members. So now we have a little mini pet that runs around. See the little ball that circles me around? He just will automatically heal teammates that need healing. Now, it's not really good healing, but I mean, healing is healing, right? Free heals is free heals. So you got a little buddy that follows you around. Excuse me. Next, we have In Spirit. Heal target ally. The magnitude is, excuse me, 100 healing magnitude. Your Life Spark will cast this spell automatically on wounded allies. So this is the Life Spark here. And then this is the ability that he casts In Spirit. Next, we have the Life Mark. Bestows a target party member or self with Life Mark. Your Life Spark will focus on healing the marked target before any other party members. This effect remains active until the target strays more than 100 meters away, or you cast Life Mark again. So again, this is talking about your tab ability. So there's the guy right here, right? So if we tab ability to him, which sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe because we're not partied, but it shouldn't matter. For whatever reason, it just doesn't want to cast on him. But you would be able to toggle this between party members. And then when you hold down your tab key, it focuses healing on whoever has that mark. So for whatever reason, I guess we have to be partied up. I don't know. It's not working, but you probably have to be in a party. So whoever has the life mark on, your tab ability is where it's going to focus that healing. And then finally, we have Life Pact. Heal the party member affected by your life mark, and it has 1,000 magnitude. So what that means is that whoever has that mark, you're healing for 1,000 magnitude if you're holding this down. So that's all the new mechanics. A very big change, a very big overhaul from just having Soul Sparks now. Let's go ahead and move down to class features. Some of them got changed. Flames did not get a change. Dark One's Blessing did get a change now. Let me see if I can find it on live. So on the live servers, currently it's 1%. They buffed this to 5% now. Whenever you kill an enemy, you generate 6 Soul Sparks, which, unfortunately, Soul Sparks don't exist, so this tooltip needs to change as well. Whenever you kill an enemy, you generate 6 Soul Sparks and heal for 5% of your max HP, and it can only be cast every 10 seconds. So it got a buff, but they still have to fix it internally because Soul Sparks don't exist on Soulweaver anymore. We have Shadow Walk. We have Dust to Dust. And now we have something called Soul Bond. And I believe this was the Essence Mastery on the live servers. So Essence Drain deals 5% more damage and healing. Well, Essence Drain doesn't exist anymore. So now they made something called Soul Bond. Whenever an ally within 30 meters is below 50% health, they receive a heal. And it has a healing magnitude of 300. So keep in mind, this is just a passive ability. So if you would have this on, for instance, if any teammate goes below 50% HP, they're automatically just going to get blasted with a free heal, with a heal magnitude of 300. Soul Eater is also new. I believe this was Prince of Hell. So Prince of Hell does not exist anymore on Soulweaver. Now it's called Soul Eater. Deal additional necrotic damage after most attacks, and it consumes 10 Soul Weave, and it has a magnitude of 20. So it's interesting to see a damaging effect. It's sort of kind of think of like a creeping death effect, but not as potent. We also have Swift Command, which is also new. I'm not sure what this is actually replacing. Borrowed Time, maybe? I think this is replacing Borrowed Time, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, this one is replacing Borrowed Time. I'm not sure what Swift Command is replacing. Oh, Warding Curse, right? Warding Curse doesn't exist anymore. Now Warding Curse is on Wrath Shadow. So Warding Curse is no longer a class feature, so they replaced it with Swift Command. Allows movement at a reduced speed when channeling command. So before, on Soulweaver, when you were using your tab ability and you were channeling, see, you're locked in place. You can't move and channel at the same time. So I'm assuming with this, now you can actually channel, but you're at a reduced speed. So it's basically you can heal on the go. Not too bad, you know, depending on what dungeon you're doing and the content you're doing, instead of just being locked into place and not being able to be mobile. Well, now with that class feature, you can actually channel this as you're moving. So, something to think about, you know, might be valuable, might not. And then finally we have Borrowed Spirit, which used to be Borrowed Time. So Borrowed Time is now Borrowed Spirit. Whenever you are healed by another player's at-will, encounter, or daily power, you regain 50 Soul Weave. I don't see very many people using this because I don't see very many people running 2 healing types. So, if for whatever reason you're running 2 healers, then maybe, I don't know, as long as you're getting healed, it has an internal cooldown of 10 seconds, and you get 50 Soul Weave back. So, I don't know. Okay, let's move on to the feats, because the feats are almost completely all overhauled. So, this Essence of Time versus Essence of Power, right? So, these have now changed a little bit. Because before, they all dealt with gaining your soul sparks back instantly with a 15-second cooldown, or you could channel. So, there's no longer a channel, right? You don't have to sit here and pray for divinity. Your divinity, or your soul weave rather, is just regained internally. So there's no more praying, right? So now we have Essence of Time, increases soul weave regeneration rate every 3 seconds, and it stacks up to 4 times. The effect is reset whenever an action consumes soul weave. So essentially when you're out of combat, you're going to have a very high Soul Weave regeneration rate. Versus Essence of Power, whenever you deal damage to an enemy, your Soul Weave regeneration rate is increased. And this lasts 6 seconds. So this is why there's going to be different play styles with Soul Weaver, because now you're going to kind of have Eldritch Blast and then choose between Soul Reconstruction and Infernal Barrier, because you're not going to have any damage. The same thing with your encounters. If you don't use any encounters that are actually doing damage, and you're using all these encounters that are only based upon healing, then Essence of Power isn't going to do anything for you. So you have to have some kind of damaging ability to take advantage of Essence of Power. Next we have Focused Spark and Soul Reclamation. These were also changed on the live servers. We had Dark Revelry and Mending Mastery, I believe. Mending Mastery was the go-to. It was just a 5% outgoing healing. So now we have Focused Spark. Soul Reconstruction now grants the target the effect of Focused Spark. Focus Spark. It increases the heal magnitude of In-Spirit on the target by 100 and causes your life spark to focus on healing this target above any other party members. Essentially, this is if you're trying to focus the main tank. Because it's talking about your life spark. Remember, your life spark is just the little companion that follows you around that doesn't really do that much healing, right? So if you take this, that little companion is going to heal for double, right? It already heals for like 100. Well, it's going to heal for 200 now, and you're also going to be able to focus your healing on the tank. And that's in comparison with Soul Reclamation. Whenever your Soul Weave is below 30% of your maximum Soul Weave, your Life Spark will channel Soul Reclamation on you, increasing Soul Weave regeneration. I'm assuming this one is going to outweigh this one. So essentially, once you drop below 30% of your Soul Weave, your Life Spark will channel this on you, and you will gain more Soul Weave back, essentially. Next we have Oversoul and Soul Theft, and these are replacing Life Bind and Lingering Sustain. So Oversoul is you deal up to 10% more damage whenever your Soul Weave is full. This effect decreases as your Soul Weave decreases. So again, if you're trying to squeeze out some damage, you're going to get 10% more damage if your Soul Weave is full. The Soul Theft, whenever you are struck, gain 25 Soul Weave. And it can only happen once every 10 seconds. So both are kind of valid options depending on the overall playstyle of how you plan on playing your Soul Weaver. Do you plan on getting hit? Every time you get hit, you're going to gain 25 Soul Weave, but it does have an internal cooldown of 10 seconds, which makes it kind of bad. Because I think the Soul Weave goes to 1,000, right? I don't know if we can't look at the total Soul Weave, I don't think, right? How much Soul Weave we actually have, I'm assuming it's about 1,000. Someone can leave me a comment and let me know how much Soul Weave we actually have. I don't think it says like your total Soul Weave anywhere. So the Soul Theft, it's regain only 25 Soul Weave, so that's very small. Every time you get hit, 25 Soul Weave, but it can only happen once every 10 seconds. So I don't know, you know. It's kind of, both of these are kind of iffy, because me personally, if I'm going to play a Soul Weaver, I'm going full heals. I'm not trying to do any damage per se. We have Bright Spark and From the Brink coming up next, and these are replacing, well, it's still From the Brink, but I think it's different, and Theft of Life. So we have Bright Spark. Whenever you activate a daily power, your Life Spark gains the effect of Bright Spark, increasing the healing magnitude of In-Spirit by 300. Keep in mind, just to reiterate, Life Spark is your tiny little companion that follows you around and automatically heals. It casts In-Spirit. In-Spirit heals for 100 magnitude. If you take Bright Spark, it goes up to 400 magnitude total. So now your little companion actually provides some really good healing with 400 magnitude heals. This lasts 12 seconds, by the way. In comparison to From the Brink, when healing allies with less than 25% of their HP, your healing is increased by 15%. So, as a healer, I don't want my teammates to go down to 25% HP anyway. So I feel like Bright Spark might be the way to go here. Now finally, we have the level 80 ones, which on the live servers used to be consuming action and spark energy. So now we have Fey Pact and Hell Pact. So Fey Pact is Revitalize, Soulstorm, and In-Spirit now bestow a heal over time effect as well. So your Revitalize is an encounter power, your Soulstorm is an encounter power, and then that In-Spirit again is the thing that your little companion casts. So all of these will have heal over time as well. That's with the Hell Pack. Revitalize, Soulstorm, and In-Spirit now bestow a barrier that absorbs damage based on the strength of the hill. So now, not only do you have Infernal Barrier at your disposal as an at-will, but you can actually give an internal barrier while casting Revitalize and Soulstorm. So both are very valid options here. Overall, I really like the Soulweaver changes. It gives more enthusiasm for me to even dive into Soulweaver. Anyone that knows me hates the fact that Warlocks are healers to begin with. I wish we had 2 DPS Paragon paths, but that's not the case. This is how the game is. This is the comparison between what we have on live right now. A lot of the healing changes that are coming with Mod 19 obviously affect Soulweaver as well. Incoming healing as well as outgoing healing both got nerfed, I mentioned in a previous video. So, I mean, I like what I'm seeing, but it still needs work. This is not endgame completion yet. There are still things that they should be doing with the encounter powers to make them worthwhile, not only on Hellbringer, but now also on Soulweaver. Like I said, like, who's out here using Arms of Hadar? Nobody. There's no reason to use it. It's bad. So, as far as balancing currently, I like where the Warlock is going on the DPS side of things, as well as the healing things. Like, seeing changes like this make me want to, dip my feet in the pool and start playing Soulweaver even more than I do right now. Because on the live servers, I only ever switch to Soulweaver to get random queues just to get in the dungeon, right? So now, this is kind of interesting. The mechanics look kind of interesting. It's not just brain dead one button spamming anymore. On the live servers, it's all about shatter, spark. You just hit one button, heal your entire team. You spam it over and over again. Wait till you get soul sparks back. Spam shatter, spark again, and there you go. So now we have valid options available to us. Even some of the class features, you have to decide what you're doing based on the content. The feats, there's some really good feat choices in here that you're going to have to decide based upon your playstyle. This is the direction that I want to see the game progress forward on now. So now they did balancing changing with all 3 healers. The clerics had changes, the paladins had changes, the warlocks had changes. They balanced all 3 of those to make all 3 of them viable for content. But now they need to actually go back and take a look at every class individually and start making some of this stuff worthwhile. Like I said, Flames of Empowerment, who's using that on Hellbringer? Nobody. It's garbage. So that's going to conclude today's video. Again, Mod 19 is scheduled to release June 30th on PC. Console date hasn't been announced yet. As of filming this video, today is June 16th. So if you're watching this video down the road, then, maybe some of this isn't relative right now. If you're watching it in the future, then Mod 19 might already be out. Again, this is also preview server. They could still end up tweaking a lot of things. So until it's a final product, we'll have to go back and take a look at this overall. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Remember to smash that like button. Really helps the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you guys real soon.